No one believed it at first. Uniform police tasing a blind veteran and his loyal canine in the middle of a crowded street. But when the military convoy arrived just 7 minutes later, everything changed. This story proves one thing. Sometimes heroes have to rescue each other. It was supposed to be a simple morning walk. Sergeant David Cole, retired after 25 years in the army, made his way down Main Street with his German Shepherd, Ranger guiding him carefully around the crowds. His white cane tapped rhythmically against the pavement, each step measured and sure. Ranger wore his dark blue canine vest embroidered with gold letters. Service dog, do not distract. The big shepherd kept his nose close to David's leg, occasionally glancing up to be sure his partner was steady. Together they'd walked this route 100 times, from the small apartment on Elm Street. As they approached the corner near the bank, David could sense the shift in the air. Murmured voices growing sharper, footsteps shuffling behind him. Rur's body tensed, a soft growl rumbling low in his throat. "Easy, buddy," David murmured, resting his free hand on the dog's head. But even without sight, he knew they were being watched. He could feel it in the hairs prickling on his neck. A squad car pulled up behind them with a screech of tires, and a door slammed. That was the moment David knew this walk would end very differently. "Sir, stop right there!" a voice barked, sharp and commanding. David halted, tightening his grip on Ranger's harness. He turned his head slightly, trying to place the officer by sound alone. "I'm not moving," David said calmly, though his pulse had started to hammer. "I'm a veteran. I'm blind. My dog is a service animal." "Identification," the officer demanded. Footsteps approached quickly. His chin. "You'll find it in my left breast pocket, but you'll need to take it yourself. I can't see you." Rurs's low growl grew louder. The dog's body pressed protectively against David's leg. Around them, curious bystanders were beginning to gather, their voices hushed but urgent. "Look, he's blind," someone murmured. Another officer joined in, voice edged with impatience. "Sir, we have reports of a suspicious individual with a dog casing storefronts. We need you to cooperate." "I'm not casing anything," David said, frustration rising. "I've walked this route for years. My dog is trained to help me." But it didn't matter. He could hear the scuffle of hands reaching for his ID, the harsh whisper of radios crackling with updates. Ranger shifted, muscles coiled, ready to defend. All around them, the sidewalk fell into tense silence, broken only by the steady whine in Rurs's throat, half warning, half plea for someone to understand. The officer's patience snapped like a brittle twig. "Control your dog or I will," he barked, his voice edged with panic. David tightened his grip on Aria's harness. "He's doing his job," he said, struggling to keep his voice steady. "Please don't." But the officer had already reached for his taser. In that frozen instant, Time seemed to stutter. David heard the distinct click as the safety was disengaged. The faint electric whine, charging the weapon. "No!" he shouted, but the crackle of voltage drowned him out. The taser fired with a sharp pop. Ranger yelped, his body seizing violently as the electrode struck. David felt the harness jerk in his hand, and then go limp. A split second later, another burst of electricity struck him square in the chest. Pain flared white-hot behind his eyes, and his cane clattered to the pavement as he crumpled beside his dog. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone screamed. Phones were lifted. David lay on his side, the asphalt searing against his cheek. He could taste blood where he'd bitten his tongue. Groping blindly, he searched for Ranger. Finally finding the dog's warm flank, he pressed his hand there, feeling the weak flutter of life. "Help him," he rasped, voice barely audible. But the officers were already calling for backup, their boots pounding around him. In that moment, it felt like the whole world had turned against them both. A chorus of voices erupted around them. People shouted for the officers to stop, some crying openly as they watched the blind veteran and his service dog lying motionless. "You can't do that," a woman yelled, her phone raised high. "He's disabled. He's a veteran." David felt hands trying to roll him over. He flinched, his whole body trembling from the aftershocks of the taser. "My dog, he needs help," he gasped, each word scraping his throat raw. Ranger lay stretched on his side. For a moment, searching for David's face before closing again, an older man pushed through the growing crowd. "Someone call the Veterans Crisis Hotline," he barked. "This is an outrage!" Over the radios, an officer's voice crackled, tense and uncertain, requesting additional units. Situation escalating. Civilians interfering. More sirens wailed in the distance. It was chaos now. Dozens of witnesses recording every second. David's hand finally found Rua's collar. He clung to it like a lifeline, his vision swimming in darkness. "Stay with me," he whispered. All around them, the outrage built into something unstoppable. An entire street demanding that someone do the right thing. The first military vehicle appeared at the end of the block. A matte green Humvee rumbling over the asphalt. People fell silent, turning to stare as it rolled steadily closer, followed by a second, then a third. The convoy came to a stop right in the middle of the street. Doors swung open. Stepped out in crisp formation. Their boots struck the pavement in perfect unison, a sharp contrast to the chaos swirling around them. A tall officer with silver hair and a chest full of ribbons strode forward, his face carved from stone. He didn't glance at the onlookers or the police, his eyes fixed immediately on David and Ranger. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Step away from Sergeant Cole," he ordered, voice low but carrying authority that made even the police pause. One of the officers stammered, "Sir, this is a local enforcement matter." "Not anymore," the officer cut in. He held up a folded document bearing the Department of Defense seal. This man is a decorated combat veteran under federal protection. You will release him to us immediately. The street seemed to hold its breath. For the first time, David felt a flicker of hope. For a heartbeat, no one moved. His tension was so thick, it felt like the air itself might shatter. The senior officer stepped closer, his voice steady. "Sergeant Cole and his K9 are coming with us. Stand down." Slowly, the soldiers formed a protective semicircle around David and Ranger. One of them knelt beside the dog, checking his pulse with practiced care. From the sidewalk, a cheer rose up, clapping, whistles, and shouts of support from the bystanders. Phones recorded every second, beaming the moment across the internet. Ranger stirred, letting out a weak whine as the medic lifted him carefully into waiting arms. David reached out, his hand brushing the dog's ear. "You're okay," he whispered, feeling tears build behind his sightless eyes. "We're okay." Two soldiers lifted David gently by the arms, supporting him as he struggled to stand. He felt Ranger's weight pressed against his leg, warm and alive. Relief hit him so hard, his knees nearly buckled. Someone wrapped a blanket around his shoulders, murmuring, "You're safe now, Sergeant. We've got you." Behind them, the police stepped back, their faces pale and stunned. The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of voices rising like a chant. As the heavy doors closed, David reached for Rose's paw. The dog's tail thumped weakly against the floor, a silent reassurance. Through the narrow window, David could see the officers standing in a defeated line. He turned his face away, focusing only on the steady heartbeat beneath his hand. At last, they were leaving that street behind them. As the convoy rolled toward the hospital, headlines and debated in living rooms. But for him, it was simpler than that. It was about trust, forged in battlefields, and sealed in a bond that no misunderstanding could ever break. When the armored vehicle stopped, David leaned down and whispered, "Thank you, boy." Ranger lifted his head, eyes soft, as if to say, "I do it all."